Hi guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for tonight's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So for tonight, I have a different candle to feature. This is the chocolate and orange candle from the Cat's Eye on Etsy. The packaging is really simple. It just looks like this, and it smells exactly like a chocolate orange. It smells amazing. So I'm gonna light this and make my entire room smell like Christmas, and I'm very excited. So I hope you liked. Ooh, it lit, it's pretty, it smells great. I do have my wicked candle in here as well, as per usual, for good luck. I have a bunch of scary stories to read, so I apologize if you hear really loud noises in the background. My boyfriend is working out downstairs, and every time he like slams his weights down, you may hear like a loud bang. So I hope that's not too distracting. So if you hear loud banging, it's my boyfriend working out, and you would have heard him in the last couple of videos in the background. I put him in my bloopers because I was like, what is that fucking noise? And then I realized it's him slamming his weights down for whatever reason. Whenever he works out, that's what he does. So let's just jump on into the scary stories. So the first scary story is from the paranormal section, and this is from the Reddit user Snowell. So I will list all of the Reddit users, their authors, down in my description box below, and let's just jump into this. So this one's titled, I Dreamed of Another Version of Me. I had never had anything outside of what I would call a normal dream. This happened over several consecutive nights 2 or 3 years ago. I dreamed of a version of myself that exists in what I could only describe as the Age of Knights. This version of me seemed to be smitten by a princess from another kingdom. Her father refused to allow them to marry. So this version of myself was willing to plunge his kingdom into war to take her from her father so that they could marry. Over the course of the next several nights, I watched his kingdom be plunged into war over his love. I watched several battles unfold, all from the third person. I never once saw anything through anybody else's eyes other than my own, as I do in typical dreams. The final night of this dream, I saw them standing around a table with a map that appeared to be made out of animal skin, and they were going over battle plans. Out of nowhere, this alternate version of me stopped talking, looked me directly in the eye, and yelled, "You're not supposed to be here." And I woke up. I have never had that dream since. The only time he has ever spoke to me or acknowledged my presence was in this dream. And to this day, it is as vivid in my mind as the night I dreamed of them. And that's all they wrote. So I don't know if this is a true story or not, if this is like a true like encounter. That's crazy. If you like dreamed of an alternate version of yourself and like they actually spoke to you, wow, that's some parallel universe shit, and that is fucking insane. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That was a really short one, but I just wanted to start this off easy because I get tongue-tied really easy reading these stories, and I suck at reading. That's a good one to start with. The next story is again from Reddit. It is the scary story section, and this one is from the author _Mr. Star, and this one's titled, My Bedroom Hauntings. Strange things are happening to me at night. It started with my sleeping pillow being in the center of my room, and my back cushion, which I always put to the side of my bed, was the one I was sleeping on. I woke up at around 3 a.m. And the same night that that happened, my sister woke up with scratches on her legs and weird voices talking to her at night. I would continue to wake up really early in the morning for a few days, but then it stopped. Fast forward a month or two, and no matter how much sleep I got, my eyes were dry and tired when I woke up. And one morning at 3 a.m., I woke to my computer being on, which I never would miss before going to bed as the LED lights are too bright and the fans too loud. Something weird is happening in my house. One solution is sleepwalking, but that wouldn't explain what happened to my sister. And that's how they ended the story. So this is obviously a true encounter. Their bedroom, they're experiencing weird things in their bedroom, and that's really fucking creepy. I don't know. I'm gonna rule it into sleepwalking, like you turned your computer on in your sleep and that's why you're like feeling extra tired in the morning, but it could be something else. So that's super creepy. So thank you so much for letting me read your story, and that's a creepy encounter and I don't know. And so this is from the ghost story section and the Reddit user Spooky Spunky Art. So this one's titled Crying Girl in Our Cabin. Previously I've shared a story about a ghost of a little girl that was humming in my room when I was 18. I'll go ahead and share another ghost story that happened just last year while me, my husband, and my family were on vacation. My family rented a cabin in Helena, which was 3 stories tall and was pretty much right in the center of town. We stayed for a week, and about 3 days into our stay, weird things started to happen. My aunt and my grandma, who stayed on the 2nd floor, along with my mom and my dad, who had their own room, started hearing things. They said they heard a little girl crying at night. I didn't pay much attention to it. My aunt and my grandma are pretty jumpy when it comes to staying in new places. I thought they just heard the TV going because there was a TV in each of our rooms. 4 days into the trip, my aunt and my mom are sitting on the couch and they hear a girl say in a very distressed and breathy voice, Mama. My mom yelled for me. I was out on the porch of the cabin and she asked if I hollered for her, which of course I hadn't. Now my mom, grandma, and aunt were all scared. They were afraid to be left alone in that part of the cabin by themselves. I tried not to pay attention to it because we were on vacation. I wanted to have a good time, hang out at the cabin, and wanted to have a good night's sleep. So thinking about ghosts wasn't on my mind. My husband and I had the top room of the cabin. We turned off the TV and went to sleep after a long day of walking around town. I woke up out of the dead of sleep and I started hearing a girl cry. Small, moaning sobs. I went really quiet, stopped breathing to hear if it was just my mind or my ears playing tricks on me, because I'm thinking it might be one of my family members' TVs. Nothing. The sound was definitely coming from inside the room. I went back in my mind about 6 years ago to when the ghost of the little girl started humming in my room, and the fear and panic of that experience flew over me again. I grabbed the smart TV's remote and turned it to some cartoons or movie and turned up the volume. Like it was pretty loud. My husband turned over to complain about how loud it was and asked me to turn it off. Absolutely not. I'm not turning it down or off. He got agitated and asked me why did I have it so loud in the first place. I told him I would explain in the morning. The sobs eventually died over the sound of the TV. The next day, I told my husband what had happened and told him we only have 2 nights left, that I'm going to leave the TV on loud, so just get ready for it. I was afraid to hear the little girl cry again. To be honest, I was so upset about it. I was just ready to get up and go home. So the next night passes and the TV was kept on loud. Nothing that night except mine and my husband's ears hurting and a sleepless night. The last night was a doozy. I was so tired that I went straight to sleep and left my husband watching TV. But I asked him to please, before he went to bed, to start a movie or whatever and keep the volume up. He promised and went to sleep. I woke up again out of a deep sleep to the sound of how quiet it was, and the panic shot through me. The TV wasn't on. I think I could hear the little girl crying again. I looked at the TV and it had on the screen something to do with playback issues. It was a smart TV with the Roku. So I was doing everything I could, hitting the remote buttons, and nothing would work. I was freaking out. Like I wouldn't let the movie out of the error screen. So I somehow had to start the TV to get it to come back on and eventually play something. After fiddling around with it for more than I would care to, I actually started it up and let me scroll to the movie to play. And once again, the volume was turned up. I think whatever was in the cabin had something to do with trying to stop the TV from playing. I was happy this was our last night in the cabin. I will never stay in Helena, Georgia ever again. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That's really creepy. I probably wouldn't go back to that cabin either if you keep hearing crazy noises in the middle of the night. This is from the same Reddit user and it is an encounter, so it is titled The Humming Ghost. This happened to me when I was 18. I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep. It was real quiet when all of a sudden I heard this little girl humming. I have no brothers or sisters. She sounded like she was trying to hum Green Sleeves or the tune of What Child Is This? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me because it was so quiet. But then the humming grew louder. The humming was from a little girl, but the hums were broken as if she was trying to remember a song. My mind panicked and the first thing that flew out of my mouth was, no, 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 this isn't happening, not tonight. I jumped out of bed still saying nope and put in the DVD movie to listen to drown out the little girl. I remember saying, nope, I feel sorry for you, but I can't help you, leave me alone, after hurriedly putting in the movie. Don't laugh. It was The Three Stooges, the old movie, something loud and silly. I literally cranked the volume up to max and got in bed and let the sucker play all night like that. My heart was beating so fast and I remember just praying that the humming would go away. I went to sleep and it eventually stopped. The next morning I had to tell my mom. I told her everything. When she asked me what the song their little girl was trying to sing was, I said it was Green Sleeves and tried to show her how she hummed it. So I began humming. After I stopped, the little girl began humming again, louder, showing exactly how she sung it. My mom's eyes widened and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. After about 15 seconds, she stopped humming. I've never heard the little girl again. It's been about 7 years. My family has had experiences of ghosts before, and I've had paranormal experiences as well. But this case was just terrifying because this ghost acknowledged me. I don't think it had anything to do with the house, since it's fairly new. I have heard that in our area, there's a ghost of a girl that travels from home to home. And oh my God, okay, so again, I would not be able to sleep if you had the TV on max. Like, I don't know how you fell asleep with it on literally max with Three Stooges on. Like, I personally would not be able to fall asleep. That's terrifying though, that you hear a little girl humming and then she's literally listening and you're like, this is how she hummed it. And then like a second later, she hums it for you and both you and your mom hear that. No thanks, that's super creepy. So thank you so much for letting me read your stories. Those are really, really fucking creepy and no thank you at all. So this is from the scary story section on Reddit and it's from the Reddit user Any Significance 8548 and it's titled The Break-In. I'm a 24-year-old male. I recently have gone through a breakup, so as of this day, I remain single. I don't even know why we broke up, since I was so drunk when it happened. It was a normal night on a Tuesday. It was probably around midnight. I'd been lying awake for hours. Suddenly, I heard a light tapping noise on my window. It was winter, so when this happened, I figured it was just falling snow. Then I heard it again, but it was louder this time. It became more apparent to me that it seemed more like someone was tapping on my window rather than snow falling. I got up off my bed, set my phone to the nightstand, and started walking towards my window. I heard the tapping again, except this time, it was more like a banging. I thought that they were going to break the window because they had hit it so hard. I got to the window and no one was there. I was confused and a little scared. I knew I couldn't have imagined it. Then I looked up and I saw it, a handprint in the middle of the window. I jumped back a bit startled. I don't know why I made the decision, but I did. I made the decision to open the window, which was the biggest mistake of my life. I opened the window just a bit and saw someone's hand stick through the window. I ran as they pushed the window up all the way. I slammed my bathroom door, hid in there, and locked the door. I don't know if they were male or female or of any other identification. At that point, I didn't care. I was too scared and I got the hell out of there. They started banging on the door. Shortly after I thought that they were gone, I had creaked the bathroom door open a little bit, and to my satisfaction, the person was gone. I figured that they left through the window that they had entered. Oh boy, was I wrong. For some reason, I decided not to call the cops and that I would just call it a night and go to sleep. I don't know how long I had been asleep, but for some reason, I had been woken up. I sat up on my bed and saw it. There was a shadow outline of a human being standing over my bed. They looked as if they were male. I screamed like a little girl while they tried to cover my mouth with their hand, but it was too late. My neighbor had heard the scream and came to my door calling my name and knocking. The man took his hand off my mouth, jumped out the window, and ran off. I went to the door and opened it to tell my neighbor about what had just happened. Once I did, he called the cops for me and gave them my witness report. After that, I didn't hear any news, so I assumed the guy was never caught. And that's their entire story. Why the hell would you open the window in the first place? And why the hell would you go to sleep without checking your entire place for some random person lurking? Like, oh my God, no. Like, don't go back to sleep if you literally just had someone break into your house, and definitely call the police. Oh my God. I don't know what you were thinking, but that was bad behavior. That was not good. You could have been seriously injured of a random person breaking into your house. Do not ever go back to sleep without double checking that your house is secure. And don't ever open the window. If you hear someone banging on your window and you don't know who they are, don't fucking open it. Oh my God. So thank you so much for letting me read your story. That was really, really scary, and don't do that next time. Bad idea. So the next story is from the ghost story section, and it's from KWM7075, and this one's titled Ghost Experience That Just Happened and I'm Completely Stunned. Please share your thoughts. So this is an encounter, and it is a true story. This just happened, and I'm not entirely sure how to feel or what to think. I've had a few ghosts and strange, bizarre experiences before, and I've seen one ghost very clearly in 2008. I'm not fazed by much. These experiences are very rare, and I barely think of them. I feel very comfortable in my home, and I've lived here for about 1.5 years. I live in a large studio, and I don't own any pets. The bedroom area directly connects to the front door hallway and bathroom. I've spent the day relaxing and seeing family, then I go to lay down in bed just reading articles online and watching TV. I just got up to walk down the hallway, 2.5 meters total length, and as I turned into the hallway, I very clearly saw and felt a cat walking alongside the skirting board, which I nearly tripped on. I gasped and shook immediately. It took me a few seconds to realize this was a ghost. I've never heard of an animal ghost before. Has anyone had an experience like this? It honestly nearly tripped me up. I grew up with 2 silver cats who would be dead now, but this didn't feel like one of those cats. I also live directly next to a vet. So now I'm thinking maybe a cat passed on in the vet office and it's lingering now in my apartment. I honestly don't know what to think. I'm not scared, but it gave me the shock of a lifetime trying to get my balance. Any idea what this is? Nothing much is coming up on Google. Thanks in advance. That's what they said for their story, and then when I messaged them, they gave me a little bit more information. The general response has been that I could possibly signify buying a pet. This is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, but my apartment is quite small, so I'm not sure if it's the right decision. My apartment building is also right next to the vet, specifically my apartment, which is closest to the vet building. So it's possible a cat passed that day and maybe was lingering in the area. Ultimately, it didn't scare me, but caught me off guard. I had a lot of other experiences that are actually quite terrifying in their own. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share them with you. And I said, please send them to me. Well, the first experience equally wasn't spooky or scary at the time. It was more of a shock than anything. and I never felt scared or frightened during it afterwards. The year I started high school, my mom, younger brother, and I stayed at a well-known historic hotel for Christmas. The hotel was iconic for its glory years, went through changes of hands a few times, and currently is seen as a luxury historic hotel that is still quite popular. The hotel has a new modern wing and the old historic part, which consists of a few wings and historic buildings across the grounds. When we arrived, we were shown to our room in the modern part of the hotel. My mom was a big complainer and would always put staff through the ringer. The room wasn't what she expected and requested we be moved to a suite. The room in the modern section was fine. It felt completely normal. The only issue was that it wasn't that fancy and grand as the historic section. We spent one night in that room, opened Christmas presents. The next day, we were moved to the historic section and settled into a suite. It was really grand and had heaps of space, beautiful furniture, and a beautiful outlook across the grounds. I felt fine in the space. The ceilings were really high, but otherwise I felt comfortable. We all slept in one room, as it was so large, and I slept on a pull-out bed. My mom was on the main bed and my brother on the cot next to me. One night before dinner, I had a shower in the bathroom. The bathroom was modern, with one wall with the shower, with fixed glass panels, no door. And the other side of the bathroom was a floor-to-ceiling mirror with a floating vanity. I felt fine getting into the shower and fine showering. When I got out of the shower, as clear as day, there was a girl dressed in a Victoria-era clothing, completely pale, looking back at me in the mirror reflection. I think she was about my age, and she had almost a light comedic energy to her. Nothing felt sinister at all. My first reaction was to grab a towel and cover myself as she was staring at me completely fresh out of the shower. The whole encounter lasted about 1 minute. I quickly dried and got dressed, literally threw clothes on as fast as anything and ran back into the suite. I think the girl was curious, and it almost felt like an innocent prank. It really didn't feel scary or creepy in any way. If anything, I felt concerned someone had seen me naked, especially when you're just a teenager and a girl becomes self-conscious around that age. The rest of the night was completely fine and I fell asleep early. I knew Mom didn't sleep well that night as she left a lot of lights on and I think she was watching TV at some point. The next morning, my mom was packing and basically instructed us to get ready quickly and leave. I think we were supposed to stay an extra day, so it was bizarre we had to leave so quickly. I didn't think we even had breakfast. Mom didn't explain why there was this random rush to pack and leave. I think from waking up, we made it to the car within 40 minutes. On the drive home, I kept asking why we had to leave, and she wouldn't explain. When we got home, she explained she thought the hotel was haunted and started immediately searching on the family computer reviews about the hotel. We had actually stayed at the hotel before I was about 4 or 5 years old. I don't remember this, and it sounded as though my family experience was good. Mom later said she heard people running up and down the historic wing hallway all night, but when she cracked the hallway, no one was there. She said this lasted the whole night, and she didn't sleep at all. She also said, and this I'm not sure to believe because my mom did deal with some mental health issues, that she saw a ghost hovering over my bed and my brother's cot. That's when she started packing, and we woke up probably from the noise she was making. I don't know if the hovering part was exaggerated. She never spoke of it since. My encounter was completely fine. I fell asleep okay and felt fine in the morning. I didn't feel haunted or intimidated in any way. A few of my friends have stayed at this hotel since, and if you do Google it, a lot of reviews come up about it being haunted. I always tell friends just to be a bit careful when they go. Personally, I wouldn't stay there, but I don't think it's a bad place or really that haunted. I'm not sure of the hotel's history, but the feeling I got was that there are ghosts there and they seem more playful, if anything, and like to cause a ruckus. I saw the girl clear as day. She had a small, nice looking face, tied up hair, and a Victoria-style dress on with frills and a high collar. It really felt like a teenager prank more than anything. So that was the first experience, and honestly, ghosts don't really scare me. I think they do exist, and if you're respectful in a space and have good intentions where you stay, nothing will happen to you. I don't entertain or encourage interactions, and if I feel scared in a space, I will always leave or remove myself. The worst experience encounter is something I've only told one person, and I won't even Google it because I don't want to know what will come up. This experience really did terrify me. I hope I never experience anything like it again. When I was at university, and before I entered into the industrial job, I nannied for a family for about 10 months. They were an awesome family. I loved nannying for them, and I had a great time with them. The family had 3 children and 2 high-profile parents that worked a lot and were rarely home. It was quite normal for the kids to not see their parents for a day at a time simply because of the parents' work schedules. I would typically arrive at their house around 6:30, get everyone fed and ready for school, then do the school drop-off. I would pick them up after school and cook dinner and put them to bed. It was a great cash in hand job as a student, and I love working with kids, so it was a win-win. The house wasn't too old, maybe 30 or 40 years old, and the family lived in a very nice area. The 3 kids were great. 2 high school age sisters and a young brother in primary school. The brother is who I spent most of the time with, and then the middle sister. The middle sister was awesome, but she did have some behavioral issues and possibly was medicated for ADHD. The middle sister was the only one to sleep downstairs, and her room was back to back with a large living room with the main TV and sofas. Everyone else slept upstairs or occasionally in the pool house. On occasion, the parents would ask me to babysit on a Saturday night, which was fine, and it would typically stay until 12 or 1 a.m. when the parents would return from their night out. This happened a few times and went completely fine. I was really relaxed with the kids overall. They knew not to break any rules with me, and if I was ever firm with them, they knew not to have any attitude. So there was a lot of mutual respect and trust between the kids and myself. One afternoon, I could hear the middle sister in her room, but I couldn't work out what she was doing. I would iron or clean up a lot of the kitchen and living space, which was within earshot of her bedroom. So she came out of her room and said, "Look what I made, what do you think?" She had made a DIY Ouija board with paper and highlighters. This was the only time I ever became firm and blunt with any of the kids. I immediately said, "Don't play with that, take it out of the house. I won't be in the house if you bring that here. Play with it when I'm not here or put it outside," which was a mistake. I should have said for her to throw it away in the bin at the top of the driveway. She was shocked at how blunt and firm I was. I think she genuinely thought it was just interesting, and she had never seen me be anything but kind or nice. She looked upset and said, "Sorry, I'll put it outside." I didn't think anything of this. I thought it was just a piece of paper and she was just being naughty. I don't like anything to do with this topic. I don't like Ouija boards or anything to do with them. I really thought because it was paper and highlighters that I would probably be fine and she would forget about it outside. A few weeks later, the parents asked me to babysit on a Saturday night. I said yes and brought some books for me to read. The night started out fine and all the kids ate dinner, then went to bed. I then moved into the living room, laid on the sofa, and started watching TV. I was too tired to read the books I had brought, so I actually started to fall asleep with the TV on. The TV was at a medium volume level. The house was actually great for acoustics, so no one upstairs would hear the TV, even if you had it on loud. The middle sister was a heavy sleeper, so she didn't hear the TV or even thought it was right next to her bedroom. For context, the TV volume would have been on somewhere between 15 and 20. It definitely wasn't quiet, and I probably had turned it up to that loud because I was the only one awake in the house. As I started falling asleep on the sofa, I heard a massive loud booming noise that jolted me awake. It took me probably 5 long minutes to work out what was happening. The noise was consistent and was significantly louder than the TV. It was so loud, I thought it was actually in my ear for a moment. I turned the TV down and was almost deafened by the noise. It honestly was so loud, it seemed to shake the room. I realized the noise was localized to one corner of the room, and that's where it was coming from. The noise, and I hate this memory so much, was the sound of something heavily breathing. It sounds ridiculous, but it was almost like if a dog breathes right into your ear. That's exactly how it sounded. For scale, it was like a giant dog, or a dragon, or a monster, and stuck in its nose in the corner of the house, and it started breathing into the living room. It was so loud, it was making my ears, head, and sinuses hurt. Once I realized it was breathing and making huffing noises, I quickly grabbed my things, phone, books, mug, and ran out of the room. I literally sprinted out to the kitchen and sat on the kitchen bench next to a block of knives. I started crying and shaking and called the parents. This experience scared the living daylights out of me, and I hate to think what it was, and I hated the feeling of how menacing and evil this thing felt. I had to lie to the parents and said I think someone was walking around the perimeter of the property. Because I was crying and so upset, they believed me and came home. I can never tell them about what had actually happened, but I'm glad that they saw how upset and terrified I was. I promised myself to never babysit there again at night and always try to leave their house before dark. I also was never alone in the living room again and would always make one of the kids be in there with me. I stayed nannying with them for probably about 2 more months before finding an industry job. They didn't really want me to leave, but I could never shake that awful experience and did need to find a corporate job as my degree was ending shortly. Overall, I had a great experience with the family, but that one encounter is truly the worst thing I've ever experienced. It felt like it was the jaws of a monster and that I was tiny in comparison to this giant thing that truly hated me. It felt extremely negative and menacing. The noise was also physically awful to hear, and I had ear pain for a few days afterwards. I won't Google it, and I probably won't tell many people in the future. I think the middle sister unknowingly brought something out of the Ouija board that tried to attach itself to me that night with its breathing noise. Nothing else happened in that house when I was there, so I think that event was directly linked to the Ouija board. It scared the shit out of me, and I felt as though that the breathing, huffing noise was directed at me intentionally. I rarely think about this experience. It makes me quite stressed to think about it, and honestly, I'd rather just suppress the memory and not wonder what it was or what would have happened if I stayed in that room. So that's the worst experience, and I hope nothing like it ever happens again. I will never go near a Ouija board because I think that they're dangerous things to mess around with. As a side note, the noise was so loud I wanted to cover my ears, but I spent a good few minutes looking around the living room, adjusting the TV volume, and trying to work out what was happening because it was so confusing waking up to a deafening noise. It was only once I realized that the noise was where it was coming from that I realized it was intentionally trying to direct the noise at me, and it was something evil. I'm sure other people have experienced something like it, but honestly, so dark, I don't want to look into the topic. Happy for you to share the story, but please emphasize how dangerous Ouija boards are, even just as a game. And that's how they ended the story. So that's absolutely terrifying. So thank you so much to KWM7075 for allowing me to read your story. So this video is going to be fairly long. I've already had to stop recording once because my camera overheated. So this is where I'm going to end the story. So these are just going to be Reddit stories, and I will come back on here probably tomorrow or the next day and read some of your guys' subscriber stories because I have a few subscriber stories in my inbox on Instagram. So thank you so much for sending me your stories. I'm so excited. But I'm going to end the video here because I'm getting a little icon flash that I'm having another heat warning. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye!